today is a really special day for me. And so first of all, I would like to thank each and every one of you for taking the time to be here this evening. I would also like to thank Aldina and Victor Gomes of Goa Chitra for so generously allowing us the use of this very beautiful amphitheatre that they have so lovingly created. And they have been so supportive in the organization of this launch. So I'm very, very grateful to them. Dr. Maria Orara Puto, in spite of her health and all her busy schedule, has so graciously come here all the way from Aldona to be with us here this evening. Thank you very, very much. Yeah. I would also like to thank all my dear friends of our book club who have rallied around me with so much of support and enthusiasm that they pushed the whole book launch through. We have Savya and Deepa here on the panel. We have Roxana Singh with so much of enthusiasm, with so much of life into the scene that was enacted earlier. Aldina, who acted as Mitch. Okay, so to all of them, very sincere thanks. I would like to thank Rohan, not my Rohan, but Roxana's Rohan for playing the music, and Ayesha for acting as Donna. But all this would not have been possible if it wasn't for one very special person. Now, the cry of the Kingfisher, like Donna and Sukorina, has been subjected to a lot of rejection, a lot of humiliation, has been pushed to the back of the cupboard, and was actually exiled for so many years until Frederick Noronha accepted it and very lovingly breathed a new life into it. I think it has been worth the long wait. It has been it has been so delightful working with Frederick. Okay, he's so helpful, so supportive, so encouraging, kind, and I'm really happy that we waited so long, because the Cry of the Kingfisher has now got such a beautiful home. So so Frederick, thank you. I would like to thank Pamela De Mello for very painstakingly editing the book. I have a tendency of flouting rules, so she had to cross-check, whether what she was reading was really accidental or was it intentional. I don't know whether we can say we should judge a book by its cover. I hope so, because Beena Naik has done a wonderful job in designing such an attractive cover for the book. I'm really grateful to all of them. And then there are two other people I would really like to thank. One is Margaret Mascarenhas. She has been very kind to read all three, the first drafts of all my 3 books. She has been very helpful with her criticism and has given me a lot of very helpful advice. In fact, she was the first one who taught me, about this concept of showing and not telling. And I have tried to follow her advice in all my subsequent writing. The other person is Jamie Garbacek of the Literary International. She was very enthusiastic about my book. And at that time, once I finished writing a book, I sort of lose interest in it. And at that time, my head was bubbling with ideas with Goa Maza, the next book. But she told me that I've got to go back and I've got to add to it. And I'm really glad I took her advice, because the book has become that much richer and that much more complete. Now, writing and psychiatry are 2 very important areas of my life. And in a way, I've fallen into both of them. Writing happened when I took off from medicine to stay at home and become a full-time mom. And then in the midst of dirty dishes, soiled diapers, and goo-goo gas, there was an intellectual void, and I tried to fill this up with writing. So I started writing then, and I haven't stopped writing. Psychiatry too sort of just happened. At the end of my MBBS, I was disillusioned with medicine. At that time, holistic medicine was just coming up, and so I thought, let's give psychiatry a try. And within the very first 2 weeks, I was hooked. I still am. The mind is absolutely fascinating and mind-boggling, And psychiatry was right there at the forefront, studying about this. And I was absolutely fascinated. I still remember in my very first semester as a PG, as a MD student, when the police brought in what we call a wandering lunatic. Okay, so he was brought in, dressed in rags, filthy, covered with excreta. He couldn't understand a word he said. And the nursing staff had a very tough time trying to keep him clean. Every time they would bathe him, he would smear filth over himself again. We started him on medication, and within days, there was a transformation. He stayed clean, he started helping the nursing staff, and we were able to communicate with him. Within 3 weeks, we were able to reunite him with his family. And for me, this was absolutely fantastic. It was a miracle. Because this would not have been possible even 30 years earlier, 35 years earlier. We didn't have the kind of medication to bring about such a transformation. So I was absolutely convinced that the answers to all the problems we were seeing in the ward, the misery, the suffering, would come nicely packaged in a pill. Newer medications were being tested and tried out, and I was absolutely convinced that medication would be the answer. But then, many years later, I held on to this belief until a patient was brought to me in my clinic. And she came in, she was shouting, screaming, the family couldn't control her. And she had been on treatment for almost 3 months, on every medication that was available on the market, in every dose, in every combination. And nothing seemed to be touching her. She was still as violent, as disturbed as she was in the beginning. So I sat there and I just didn't know what to do. There was no medication I could put her on. So I thought, okay, I'll refer her to my teachers at NIMHANS, but there's nothing I could do. But the family, they said, we can't take her to Bangalore right now, so please do something, anything. But what could I do? The family was desperate, the girl was desperate, and I was desperate because I really didn't know what to do. In desperation, I suggested psychotherapy, but I didn't really believe it myself. And then they seemed to be quite happy. I still remember I went home that evening and I spoke to my husband. And I said, you know, I'm the crazy one. I'm the one who should be taking antipsychotics. How can I do psychotherapy with such a patient? So he said, why are you getting so worked up? Go back tomorrow and refer her to NIMHANS. So I went back the next day thinking that's what I would do. But the family begged me and said, please do something. Anyway, just try it for 2 weeks. If she doesn't improve in 2 weeks, we'll take her to NIMHANS. Anyway, she's been like this for 3 months, and we can deal with another two weeks. And so I started talking to her, or rather, I started listening to her. I couldn't really talk to her because she would suddenly scream. She was seeing demons, green demons, and men in black inside my room. Suddenly she would say there are hungry tigers, and she would dive under the examination table, and suddenly she would run out of the room. But as I listened and I noted down everything she said, I began to realize that certain phrases she repeated continuously. And I began to think that maybe these mean something. And so I tried to figure out what these phrases meant. And it was really amazing the first time she said something, and it was like breaking the code. And we understood what that meant. I confronted her with it, and it was right. And she became more lucid. So it encouraged both of us. And then we tried to break the code for all the other phrases she was using. And within 6 weeks, she went back to a normal life. Now for me, this was absolutely astounding. And it changed my whole approach to psychiatry. So maybe the cry of the Kingfisher has come out of all these experiences that I have had. But the cry of the Kingfisher is fictional. There is no Donna, Socorina, or Mayola. All three are born in my imagination. Of course, I'd like to think that it's based on reality, but it is fictional. And I hope that the reader I hope it reflects reality, and that the reader would be able to identify with the 3 characters in the book. And lastly, I really hope that you enjoy reading it as much as I did writing it. Thank you.